Hi there. Welcome to another edition of In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. I'm James Lott Jr. And we're going to get in between the pages of a book that's out right now from an artist that I like. We have a mutual show in common that we love and part of this big community, the Hardys. And so we met through that, and I reached out to her, and she answered my message. I love that. She has books like There's No Tomorrow, Like a Love Song, the memoir of Johnny Divine, or is it Divine? And she has a new book out, Wings Like a Dove. I'm going to show it right here. There you go. You can see it. It's out now. You can get it everywhere. And I'm telling you, I'm like, there's pregnancy, shame, secret, romance, the Klan. I mean, it says there's all kinds of stuff in here that we're going to talk about and found her writing process in the whole genre. And you guys, it's Camille Eide. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. You nailed it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First, I'd like to ask everybody as I start these shows, we're doing this from our homes. I see you have books behind you. I love it.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, actually.
Good. I want to make sure I was checking my people. That's why I was like, ask before we start until I think like how you're doing. Because we're all at home. I'm day 21 at home as we're filming this. I'm fine, but just I have a comfortable home, so I'm very lucky.
So you haven't left your home at all in 3 weeks?
Nope.
Oh my goodness. At least I'm blessed I still get to go to work every day, so not much has changed for me. But
Okay. Yeah, me, Hollywood shut down, so that's what I do for a living. So shut down.
yeah.
Well, I can't do
Wow.
it. I have no work. So I've been doing these interviews with everybody for the last 3 weeks. I have a schedule, so I've been getting up doing 2 to 3 interviews a day and putting all this content out, and it's been wonderful. It's keeping me kind of sane because I get to talk to you guys out here.
That's
Oh
cool.
goodness,
Awesome.
and keep it going. I'm not getting any money right now, but that'll. I trust in God; it'll all work out, and I'm not going to really worry about that.
All right. Sow some
I have
seeds.
not.
Here we go.
What?
I said sow some seeds. There you go.
Yes, exactly. And I've not left home. No, I was very fortunate. I did a bunch of stuff in the beginning before the Safer at Home thing happened. Plus, I'm an organizer by trade, a professional organizer by trade. So I had things already in my home, which I've done some videos since telling people what they should look for in their homes. I had things that I already had here that I just never used that are being useful now. It's a
Oh,
very
cool.
interesting time. Very interesting time. So I've
Good.
not left at all. Very
Yeah.
good. Congratulations on the book.
Thank you.
It's good. You got Brian Bird. It's one of the people who wrote a blurb on it. That's amazing. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
So how did
Brian's
that?
a really cool guy, really good friend.
Yes, he is really a nice guy. I mean, I always call him Brother Brian all the time. He's a very nice guy, very down to earth. Him and his wife Patty are just great people, very down
Yes.
to earth, and very supportive, aren't they?
Very, very, very gracious and just really wise. Yep.
Yeah, very good much. Now, okay, so what is this genre? I was trying to figure this out. Like, is this book a genre type? I mean, I don't know what would you call it?
Well, it's generally inspirational fiction, and they call it historical romance because it's got that thread of romance in it, although it's probably not uh, the main thread like what you would normally find in a book that's, labeled as romance.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's heavy. There's much going on in there besides romance.
Yeah, I like to write what we call more than a romance. That's what some of my reviewers have called my work because I like stories that really deal with the drama of relationships and things, and there's a whole lot more to love than just the romantic side. So everybody loves a good romance, so that's always a part of my stories, but there's always more, this relational drama and the conflicts and the redemption and the things involved with all kinds of love and family.
Which I'm drawn to. I'm drawn to relationship filled dramas.
Right.
Whether I mean,
Yeah.
talk about all kinds. I mean, family, friends. Here, a young orphan. I mean, all kind. I love that kind of stuff. The
Yeah.
contrast of someone older, younger, or peers, or what. I love that. I love that stuff. Your book provides that.
Great. Thank you.
It does. It does. So tell folks. I'm gonna start getting some of the themes. Short synopsis. What is Wings Like a Dove about?
It's about a young Jewish woman who finds herself pregnant unexpectedly and unwanted, and her mom makes sort of an ultimatum that she can't really agree to, so she ends up setting out cross country to look for her father, who she's hoping will help her basically reinstate herself in her family and her mother's good graces. But she ends up running into some people who need her help along the way. But it's the 1930s, so a young, unwed, pregnant woman wasn't really, well accepted and valued at that time. So um, it's it's a story about someone who is facing a lot of persecution, both for the situation she's in and the fact that she's Jewish in an era where there were a lot of people that were bi- biased, at least, if not more, to people who were Jewish, people who were various different beliefs and ethnicities and race, and people that were immigrants. So she basically is nailing a number of things that were kind of looked down on, being an immigrant, being Jewish, and being pregnant out of wedlock. So I really threw her into a whole lot of opposition.
Yes, you did, girl. You did.
Yeah. Sorry.
I was like, no, it makes for a good page turner. I'm just saying, when you gave her a lot of stuff, you're like, oh, that's coming up now, and that's coming up now, and that's coming up now. Like it was like I'm reading. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, let's just keep it going. Let's see what's going to happen.
Yeah. And so she ends up finding herself in the middle of a part of the country that really did have a lot of bigotry and racism. It was kind of a hard story to research because it was really hard to read the reality. In fact, I've told a few people who said this was a hard story to read. I did try to make it gentle in the aspects of friendship and love and finding friends and family where you would belong, and that's the good side of it. But um, I have friends who were reading it saying this was so hard to read, and I'm saying I had to really soften it a lot, because if I had written this the way life really was then, these people wouldn't even still be alive.
Right.
Like little Samuel and Anna would not have even been in this town. They
No,
wouldn't have. They would have been run out or worse.
or
So
worse, or worse. And
yeah,
we both know. I mean, yeah, we know been worse. Um, that's a good question for you. When writing a book, you have the artistic side, the creative side. Of course, you're when you want to tell a certain story,
hmm
and you want to be as creative and open to the process as possible. But
right.
then you had to kind of tone down something. So how did you find that happy medium to where we got the finished product? So because you
Right.
didn't want to gloss over everything and make it all
Right.
wonderland, but like you didn't shy away completely from it either. So how was that process for you?
Right. Oh, I don't know. I probably just really give it a lot of thought and prayer. Just really wanting to show that this really was a reality, and everything from just unconscious bias all the way up to outright bigotry was a real thing, and it's an ugly thing. And although it's something that if we all look inside ourselves, we might be able to recognize little pieces of and think, oh, maybe I should really think twice about how I view people who are different from me. So I don't know. I mean, what you said is basically just kind of toned it down, but not taking away the reality of it so much, but just focusing on the bits that maybe we can bite off and chew and just kind of slowly, digest without being overwhelmed so much, by um, there are references to different things in the story, like the Klan and
Yes.
their activity. I have a friend who's a woman of color who she was kind of afraid to read the story, and I told her, yes, there's Klan, but you won't really see them actively in this story. I'm not focusing in on them. They're there. They're in the wings, and you're aware of the hostility. without actually having to like face it on the page necessarily. Um, I guess that's how I did it. Just, made sure that you understood that this was part of the reality without putting in front and center in the story. I wanted to keep the story about, particular people and friendships that were forming, in the midst of all this.
Well, me personally, I always feel like if you're a little uncomfortable, good. That shows you have some humanity in there, and it's a positive thing. If you're reading this and you're kind of going, I don't like the way that sounds, that's good. You shouldn't like the way that sounds,
Right.
in my opinion. So I feel like that's to have people think a little bit. Like you said, maybe they read a part of it and have to put the book down for a second. Maybe they'll think, like you said, think about things. They were
Yeah.
praying or meditating or germinating on it, whatever. They start thinking about, wow, I don't really. Yeah, I didn't like that's thank God things are a little better than that now. There's places in the country that are still like that. Maybe where I live it's like that a little bit. I should like look around a little more and like what am I doing to foster it or continue on some level, or am I doing some social justice work that's actually helping a little bit? I mean, it's kind of it's a good way. It's a good way to some things are uncomfortable. I mean,
Right.
that's life. I think
Right.
that's kind of good sometimes. Feel uncomfortable. It just shows that you have a heart possibly, and
Right.
you know, I don't know. I mean, what do you think? Like, do you think? I mean, obviously you wrote and put it out, so obviously you're like, I left it in there for stuff, but I
Yeah,
feel it's okay to be a little uncomfortable.
I guess so. And I don't know. I think that all of us, I just my opinion, but I think we all could stand to have a little more grace for people that we don't understand. And I think that we're not going to really face that until we're a little uncomfortable.
I agree with that. I like that. I agree with that completely. I do. Um, it's set in the Midwest, of course, and I love the Midwest. I have family in the Midwest, go to the Midwest all the time. I love it. And what's so funny, when I was reading this, I was thinking, I mean, obviously I'm much younger than what's in this book, obviously, but even back when I was of a certain age back in the day, and I'll say the 70s and 80s, and I faced
Mhm.
racism. Never faced any in the Midwest, thank God. In the Midwest, I've been very fortunate. I have been very fortunate. The millions of times I've gone to the Midwest, never had racism, not anything directed at me. The
Nice.
South, yes.
Yeah.
Here in California, yes. The
Yeah.
East, yes. But the Midwest, I haven't. But I know there's a history there of stuff.
Yes.
So reading a book was kind of it gave me a setting. The way you describe the settings and the words and situations, I was like, oh, okay. I know the Midwest, so I kind of know the areas. Like, okay, but to see that happen, like that would suck if I had dealt with some of this stuff and in that time period,
Yeah.
rough. You know,
It, I was setting the story there just because I don't remember really exactly why I chose Indiana, but as I was looking at it, I found that there was a basically I don't know what to call it, the core of some of where the Klan was in a part of Indiana and Huntington. I was kind of shocked. So I actually set the story within about a 10-mile radius of that town. But as I researched more, I found out that Indiana, I hate to say it, but really pretty famous for not just the Klan activity that you are accustomed to hearing about, but there was a women's Klan. They
really,
actually have,
never knew
yeah,
that.
there is a book by Kathleen Blee, I believe her name is, that extensive research on the activity of the women's Klan, and they were counterparts to the men, and their agenda was different. And they were involved with temperance, and they were involved with
Wow.
cleaning up their towns, but they were appealing to women through the invitation. Oh, don't you want a more moral place to raise your children? And so they were trying to appeal to women like Sarah in the story, who she's kind of naive and trusting, and she just believes the things that these women are telling her. And this was actually very prevalent, which I was really shocked to find, um, that this organization existed, and that they were actively recruiting like housewives and mothers and saying, oh, this is going to be a horrible place to raise your children unless you join us, and you need to join us because these terrible people are bringing these awful vices and immorality into our community, and you need to help us. And that's really the character Sarah, the BFF, in the
Yes.
story. She's a product of what I learned about the way women were being recruited. It was a,
I never
a
knew that.
very real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
shocking.
It's shocking. Well, here's the thing. So, how do you come up with, you've written, this is your fourth book. I mean, how do you come up with stories? I mean, how you come up with what you decide to write?
Oh, well, each one's been different, so I don't have a really set
Well,
answer for
okay.
that.
So, let me narrow it down even more. I can do this. I'm an interviewer. I can do this. Um, firstly, is there a type of story you're just drawn to in general? And does that inform each time you pick a story to write?
Um, Probably that would be a really good question for me to answer after I've given it some thought, because it's
Okay.
it's really a basic thing for me, and I probably tend to come back to the same sort of thing, and that is that um, in some way or another, all my characters are, of course, on a journey. All characters are on a journey, but usually they're also on a spiritual journey. And what I end up with, all of my characters discovering that God's love never fails. Because I've grown up, like we all have, discovering that love's going to um, abandon you at some point or another, or not not satisfy on every level, and that's just an experience that I love to put my characters through. And anyway, that's
Yeah.
that in romance. Who
Yeah.
doesn't love a good love story?
Yes. I just know for me, because I'm an author myself too, and my books, the through line is choices. My
Hmm.
books are always about choices in the story, and then my stories are like you, just they vary. When I feel like writing a story about something, I write about that subject. But they're all about. I realize they're all about choices.
Right,
This or this, and then the
right,
effects.
right.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just curious
Mhm.
if there's a story, a type of story you're drawn to, but then all your books are individual of themselves, I'm sure. But just
So in 3 days, I'm going to have a really good answer for that.
I love that. We have to do
Yeah.
a follow-up, a little featurette.
Okay.
Okay, I
Okay.
get one question with Camille Eide, and then you can just tell me, I can ask the question, you can tell me if there's a through line. I just think it's great. So something for you to think about. I was just wondering if there's something, well, like with this book, I
Hmm.
mean, you've written your last book. You put it out. You put it to bed. Now you get ready to do your next book. I mean, how did this story enter your brain to like want to write this type of story? Maybe that's
Well, actually, this one and the one just before it, the memoir of Johnny Devine, both of those I had something a little clear in mind, as far as these two were both set in a historical era, as opposed to my first two, which are contemporary. These two are set in an era where something's happening around them in society, or maybe in politics, or whatnot, that affects them and sort of trickles down to their own lives. And so, I'm setting it like, for example, Johnny Devine was at against the backdrop of the Red Scare in the 1950s,
okay.
and when McCarthy and
Oh yeah.
the anti-communism, movement was, that's something we all recognize. And so, while that was real in history, I have these fictional characters. Although people tell me, they, after reading the book, they go look up the actor Johnny Devine, and they want to see what movies he's been in, because they think he's
That's
real.
so funny.
Yeah. So anyway, he's a Hollywood, big, Hollywood heartthrob, like a Cary Grant, or a one of those guys. Anyway,
I would
very,
say
very
like Montgomery
calculated.
Clift or Salmon. You want to say James Dean? I'll say James Dean or something. One of those kind of like big heartthrob.
Yeah, so he's big heartthrob, and the Hollywood 10. I don't know if you're familiar with, but there was the era in the 50s when people in Hollywood were being targeted and
Oh yeah.
suspected of being communists. So the issue of the day trickles down into both Johnny's life and the woman who is helping him write his biography, his autobiography, or his memoir. And she also has some issues with her parentage, and the writing that she does that's considered controversial. Um, so she's also being suspected, and they're having to clear themselves So basically, I put, characters that we can relate to into a situation that, is a real part of history as, an interesting backdrop, but how it would trickle down into somebody's life, you know, how that makes sense.
Have you always had a big, broad imagination?
Oh, probably. Yeah. I've probably been writing since I could write. I published my first book when I was 7, and it was about Snoopy.
Wow, how cute is that? Okay,
Yeah. All the illustrations, all,
wow.
yeah.
Okay, well, girl.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I think I just love story, and I love, we all do. If someone's talking and all of a sudden they say, "Let me tell you a story," we just like perk up our little antenna and go, "Oh, what's gonna happen?" So, um, I don't know. I guess I'm just a creature of story. I don't know.
But when you go from story to be a creature of story to actually writing story, I mean, not everybody does that.
Oh no, it's
And
yeah, you
so tell people a little bit how that this is not, I mean, I write books too. It's not always an easy process. It's a journey for you too,
Oh,
each time, right?
definitely. Oh yeah, I started about 13 years ago. Friend of mine and I got this great idea. We thought, why don't we write a story about this international romance? Because her sister in Norway and my brother here in America met and had this international courtship, and they got married. And we're like, oh, that's such a romantic. Let's write a story like that. That would be so cool. So I, sat down and got my typewriter, and I started writing the story. And went, oh, this is terrible. I have no idea what I'm doing. So
Okay.
I got out and started learning how to write, going to workshops, going to critique groups, going to writing conferences, studying like crazy. And I'm kind of an all or nothing girl, so I really poured a lot into, and it is a lot of work. You've got to have a heart and
I agree.
kind of an obsession.
I
Do you
agree.
think you agree? You have to have an obsession, and you've got to have some word skills. So,
Yeah.
my theory too is that there are natural storytellers and there are natural wordsmiths, and I tend to be more to the word grammar person. So I had to really learn how to be an evocative storyteller, which I don't know that I am, but that was part of the skill that I had to learn. And some people are naturally gifted at just being fascinating storytellers, but they have to learn the word craft
Yes.
part of it. So it's a lot of both, and it is a lot of work. If you want to be any good at it, they say it's like, what does it take? Like a million hours of practice to, master something. I don't know what the
Yeah,
number is, but it's
something like
something
that. Yeah, something like that.
crazy. Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's one of those things you have to be a little obsessed, and for me it's always divine intervention. So whenever I get a meat of a story and it just where my hand is just flowing and it's coming
Yeah.
out of me, I love that feeling. But then there are many times when it's not like that.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and there's many times where you're like, did I name?
I
Because
know
I've
those
written like
things.
20 books by now, so I'm like, what name
Wow.
am I going to character this time? Like I want to make sure I don't repeat names I have in another book. I try
Do
to
you keep
remember.
a spreadsheet? Spreadsheets are good for that.
You know what? That's a great idea. I've never, Camille, I never thought of that before.
Yeah, I'm
See,
a spreadsheet queen. Yeah.
that I used to be a spreadsheet person too. That's very interesting. Now my little notes to myself. I should
Okay.
keep a spreadsheet of the characters of my books, what their
Yes, and what
names
color
are.
their eyes are. And don't use the same color eyes every time.
Ooh, that's good advice.
Yeah, the character I'm writing right now for my 5th book, I just decided that she has glacier blue eyes, so that'll be a
I
new
like that.
one.
I like that. I like that. Character names in each book. That's actually I learned something. That's a good idea because I was like, that's like, well, I like this. I'm like, well, no, I used that name 5 books ago. Okay, don't use that first name. Like, I don't want to have the same first names. And I have one book where I'm actually I'm co-writing with a couple people too, and we're actually going to cross over 2 series for a minute. And so it's like, but
Oh,
the names
fun.
sound so it's actually been a lot of fun actually doing it. It's kind of like in one book, the one character is walking in the background, you're like, oh, there's so and so, and he like notices him for a second. He says some 2 words, but now in the next book in the other series, you actually hear him talk. It's kind of this weird thing we're doing. But it was like their names sound so similar. We didn't even think about that
Yeah,
when we first did the series.
right.
Each
Yeah.
series, like, oh, they sound really similar, but we're gonna make it work anyway. But it's kind of like we didn't. So I should do a spreadsheet for each name of my book. Well, no, that's a good idea because names are a big deal, as you know, when you're doing
Oh, yeah.
names.
Yeah. Yeah. I like my characters' names to actually mean something that goes along with who they are, whether the reader ever knows or not.
Same here. Same here. The names may have meaning to me, and some names, excuse me, are names for people in my life. I never use anybody's real first and last name. I never do that. I'm sure you
Yeah,
don't do
that's
that either.
dangerous. Yep.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. But I do have, there's certain names in my family that were unique that I have thrown a couple of those in. Maybe they're a side character or something. I like to say, there's Arthuretta, I'll throw her in there. That's my great grandmother's name. Like a few little homages to some people. But
Yeah.
but names are always, I have no problem with locations, but like just names, I'm like, I want to make sure I don't repeat a name.
Yeah.
I go to the same one. I don't want to do that at all. Or repeat a name from somebody in another book either. I don't want to like somebody else's books. I read as much as I write. I read books too. And I
Yeah.
try not to like get influenced by other people's names either. So it doesn't make sense. It's like that. There's a lot of things that go into writing a book. It's not just, you don't just sit down and just write. There's like a lot of logistical things that go in.
Oh, there's a lot. Yeah. I actually go kind of crazy with all of my pre-writing prep, and it can be overwhelming. Actually, I'm going through and resorting years worth of notes on the book that I'm back to working on right now, and it's like, oh my goodness, how many notes randomly? I have like 30 pages worth. I've got to sort
Wow.
all these out, but oh yeah, it's crazy.
Now, you also in your book, which I thought was very cool, you do offer further discussion and a recipe for challah bread, which is kind of cool. But you really do, and you kind of talk about, you add some notes to it. I like that. I thought it was a great idea. So you can actually, when people read and go, well, we can have, people have book clubs and stuff. This is
Right.
a good guide for people to go, well, maybe we can talk about this and that, and your suggestions. And it comes from you, so it's kind of a great, you wrote the book, so it's kind of great. I love that. So that was obviously a conscious choice to do that for your book.
Right.
Did you do that for all your books, or was just for this one?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I I know I did for the third one. I need to look. I don't even remember
I was
actually.
curious. I know in this book you do for sure, of course. Um, and then you also have at the end other ways to connect, like like BookBub and Good. I know Goodreads. I know that one,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. So I mean, and you have a blog, you have a couple of blogs,
Hmm.
so you get to
Hmm.
talk to your. So again, I think for me, anybody who buys one of my books, whether it's one person or 100 or 1,000, whatever, I'm grateful. Can you talk about because just the fan interaction? Like people are buying your books, they're telling you about what they think. I mean, how is that for you?
Um, I really love that actually, and just getting feedback from people. Not so much just I really love the books. That's awesome, but just really, I guess, an answer to your question about what kind of stories do I like to write.
Oh,
The answer,
okay.
yeah, see, the answer
Okay, okay,
is
okay.
I love writing a story that touches people in some way, in a way that's meaningful. And when people write to me and tell me that the story touched them in a positive and in a powerful way, I that's worth all of the obsessing and sweating and re-editing over and over again. In fact, my first book deals with a woman who finds out that she probably has a terminal genetic disorder and has to struggle with the idea of how am I going to live my life now, knowing that every day might be my last.
Wow.
And she's a believer in Christ. She loves God, but she finds out through the story she doesn't really trust him. She feels like she's got to take care of all these people in her life and has to sort of surrender. If you really do trust him, you really do have to let them go and let God take care of them and quit trying to take care of everyone yourself and trying to be the rescuer because you can't. And I had a reader write to me and say she couldn't believe how much that story changed her life, and how it helped her stop living in fear and just learn to love each day and embrace it, and not worry about tomorrow. It's called, like, there's no tomorrow. Basically, it's, let's do everything today that we were created to do, and love people best we can today,
Yeah.
as if this were the last chance we had. So yeah, it's pretty remarkable to hear from people and to find out that they connect with and resonate with your characters. You put pieces of, I like to call, real human frailties in characters. So, they may be made up fictional people, but they really are based on all the real, human strengths and failings, and worries and triumphs, and all the things that go into being human, and hopefully enough so that people feel like these are really authentic, and these are people that they would be friends with and want to hang with.
Yeah. I always say to people, again, thank you so much for, buying my books. But writing's very solitary. I mean, it's a very solo thing you do. I mean, even when I'm writing with somebody else, usually they're writing their parts, I'm writing my parts, then we come together. So you put it together, you write this book, you put out a book that has almost 200 pages, which is what you did, almost 300 pages. Put it out there, and so I guess it's nice to have real human reaction to something that you put together on your own, silently, in your room or out on the porch, wherever you decide to write, in the backyard, wherever you decide to write, because it's a very solitary way of doing things.
Right.
I think it's very cool. So I always appreciate people who give me any kind of feedback, whether it's good, bad, indifferent. I'll take it. Just what it means.
Right.
My work didn't go in vain on some level. I mean, I'm doing it for me anyway, but I'm glad that somebody's paying attention.
Right. Are you ever surprised by the things that people pull out of your books?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good question, Camille.
Yeah.
I am, and it's when what's also I see also here's another thing too. So I also do music. I have a lot of music out, so I do music. And one of my songs, and I'm Christian, whatever, but I don't do Christian music. I just do positive. I do positive music, just positive music. But one of my songs, "My Soul Need a Cigarette," there were some Christians who had a problem with that song title, and I kept saying, "Listen to the lyrics."
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my sister, she's super Christian, more Christian than even I am, woke up one day stressed out and said she had a dream that her soul needed a cigarette. I thought it was a great title of a name of a song. Now she doesn't smoke. I don't smoke. I never smoke. But it's just like, that's a great song title or book title. It's just I just thought it was great. And then Divine Intervention came in like a week later, and I wrote the song in like 20 minutes, and I recorded it. And I was very proud of it. But I said, listen to the lyrics, and the meaning is kind of, when we were back in the day when you were stressed out, you smoked a cigarette to de-stress.
Oh, I
Don't
get
really
it.
do it anymore. That's not what we do anymore. But back in the day when smoking was in, so I get what she was saying. It was kind of like my soul, but not really like her. I mean, her soul was hurting. Her soul was tired. Her soul was stressed.
Yes.
So when people listen to the lyrics, then it got a little better. When people saw the title and reacted strongly to it, and I was shocked. I thought, okay, I didn't think much of it when I put it out. So that's kind of an example of your what your thought about your question about that. Like, but in my books, yes, some of the things are like, so this part here, I want to know more about that. You do? I didn't even go that deep into that area. I was really pushing this part of the book, but like you picked up on I picked up on this. There was one where people picked up on this one character that was a side character, and now he's become a major character in this one series I write.
They do that.
Isn't that funny? I didn't expect that. So you know what I'm talking about, them.
Yeah.
It's just,
oh yeah. Like in Wings Like a Dove, the friend Sarah that Anna makes, she's the farmer's wife that lives next door. She was just supposed to be, a friend, someone to get to know and grow a little bit fond of. But I didn't realize that Sarah was going to really pull a lot of things out of me, actually, that made me have to stop and really think. And I thought, well, she's going to end up being a little heroic herself. She ended up kind of stealing the show in the end of the book.
Yeah.
Because the way, normally your hero needs to be the one doing the heroic thing, but this story, um, because of the way it's set in this little town, I really felt like somebody from the town needed to do the standing up to the rest, and Anna could kind of go on her way.
Yeah.
Not to be a spoiler or anything.
Right,
But,
no, right, not why, but just yes.
but I wanted, I could see Sarah, just being this kind, neighborly person until she started really coming alive in the story, and suddenly it's like, whoa, she's gonna stand up and do something really, really bold. This kind of quiet, going along with the crowd kind of a person is gonna find her voice and say, this is wrong. I'm not gonna put up with it.
And but isn't that the great part, though, as writers, when something does take a turn, or like I've started writing a book, and I thought I was writing about this, and all of a sudden I went, I'm gonna go this way, and then it became almost better than my original idea, kind of like, I want to go this direction. Like, that's a wonderful thing about writing, isn't it? About letting go of control and just letting the divine intervention come in and just take over, right?
Well, yes. For me, it's the characters. I mean, I really try to give my characters 3 dimensions and make them feel very real and authentic. And, they do sometimes get just a little, ego and a little will of their own, and they just come in across the page, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're not supposed to do that. Yeah, in my first book, I've got a couple of elderly Scottish sisters. They were just supposed to be cute and fun and just there. My main characters are caregivers to these 2 older women, and that's how they get together, because the 2 older Scottish sisters want to, reconnect from across the miles. But these 2 old ladies turned into little characters, and they were like kind of almost stealing the show. It's like, no, you guys need to calm down a little bit here, because there's a romance going on. You need to quit taking the stage.
I love it.
It's over.
You can write some spin-offs.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Some spin-offs. I'm sorry, like, okay, I'll give you guys a little story. I'll give you a short story spin-off or something.
Golden Girls. Well, see, a lot of authors do this. What's really cool is a couple of my favorite authors, in between their big full-size novels, they're putting out like little novellas, just to keep you interested while you're waiting for that big book. And some of them are like a prequel, or let's say their book series is, numbered 1, 2, and 3. So the novella will be 0.5. It'll be that little. Before you meet these 3 sisters, here was the romance of their parents way back in the 80s, way back in the olden days. And it's kind of cool.
It is actually.
Yeah. And I think a lot of them are kind of self-publishing those, even though they're full lengths or maybe with a traditional house. So mixing it up. But yeah, it's fun to have little spin-offs and keep the readers interested and give them a little something while they're waiting.
Well, it's funny. My first book was a collection of short stories, and so I had the readers tell me which ones they wanted to know more about.
Oh, okay.
And actually led to 2 series from there. I have a pill series. My pill series is very popular. That one was because I had a story called The Pill that people almost everyone resonated with that short story.
Oh,
and
okay.
It just kind of begged to be told further, like, how did he get there? What happens afterwards? So that informed my first series of books I'm writing. So it's kind of a spin-off series that I started writing. And I'm on the 4th book on that one. But it's kind of like, okay, I'm like, okay, but they told me. And there was another story in the book. Someone told me, well, I want to know more about this person. So I'm writing that one. I have that series, my parts of the whole series. I have like, I'm on book 6, I think, on that one.
Wow, you're a machine.
Well, it's funny because, my books I don't write 200-page books. My books are shorter. I started the Really Short Story Project. That's something I did on purpose, for people who want to throw a book in their purse or in their bag and read something quick. You can finish in a day or 2. I just kind of did that. And it's been kind of fun serializing these books. And I'm able to explore characters in each of these stories and make them real. Like you say, make them living, breathing characters. I can go anywhere with them, and that's been the fun part. It's just kind of like, in book 5, here we go. We're going to talk about this. I did some backstory. I did some front story. I mean, I did, it's like, it's been fun for me as a writer. It's been challenging me, because I'm used to writing a beginning, middle, end kind of story thing. But now I'm like, what is this kind of open-ended? And I can actually continue this, and where do I end it? So that people get excited for the next one. So it's been very interesting just for me as a writer, to explore that. It's been a lot of fun.
Right. Well, it's cool that you're getting feedback from people as far as, steering toward, what are you going to write next. I had a lot of people wanted me to write a sequel to my first book, and it's like, well, what you really want is to see them living happily ever after, and that's not really a novel. It needs to have an arc and a conflict and a, what are we rooting for kind of thing. It's like, I know you want to see more of them, but maybe, I don't know, maybe it's about some kids in a group foster home, so maybe they could grow up and I could show their stories or something. But kind of hard to give people what they want because they don't realize that they're asking you for something that isn't really a book. Maybe just like you said, it's a little partial sequel or maybe a novelette or thing.
I think it's also exciting that people want more. That's great. Whether you give it to them or not, that's still good. I come from television. I can't help it. That's what it is. I always like that kind of you want them wanting a little more. You want them invested in the characters and wanting to see them. But you're right. It's like a happy couple is a boring couple. I mean, in terms of entertainment, real life, you want that. But like in entertainment, what can you really write about a happy couple?
Yeah, I mean, you can, a clever writer can put in another goal. Maybe they've reached in a romance, for example, the kiss in the middle of the story, and that's great. But then you've got to turn around and have other conflict right away, or else we're just kind of like lulling in la la land. And this is, okay.
You're like, great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, but it's good if people want more. People want more. You want them always wanting more at some level. That's kind of like
life does present continuing challenges, and so as long as we have a reason to root for that hero and heroine, we're going to keep reading. So,
and one day, you never know, down the aisle, down the Monday, you may decide to revisit that story. You may have a newer idea about that story. I tell people, as long as somebody's still writing, anything is possible, right? Just anything's possible. You never know what your inspiration is going to come from. You just don't know when it's just at any given time it's going to come to you.
Right. Yeah.
So folks, she may have a sequel to it one day. Who knows? I mean, or maybe not. But she's still writing. So let her continue writing what she wants to put out. You never know what's going to come out.
That's right.
So you said you are working on something right now. So
I am. It's a contemporary story, so I just back and forth. I don't think I'm going to ever be nailed down to just contemporary or historical, because, like I said, sometimes what's going on in the era is part of the story. It's the backdrop that filters into and trickles down into their lives. So, yeah, the next one's going to be about sisters, mothers, daughters. It's going to be set on the McKenzie River in Oregon. It's a beautiful, beautiful setting. So I've been there once to scope it out. Just to get the feel, but I'm gonna have to go back and just listen to the river and smell the woods and get the feel. But yeah, it's about a young woman raising a boy that calls her mommy, and she is absolutely determined to make sure he never hears that she really isn't his mommy, and the reason why his mommy isn't raising him is because she didn't want him. And this woman is very adamant that no one should ever feel the pain that she felt of knowing that you weren't worth keeping. And so this is sort of her knot and her reason for protecting this little boy at every cost, even if it means living in exile and staying 3 steps ahead of her twin sister. So
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds really good. Sounds like a lot of stuff in there again, like your other book. There's stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. And there's a handsome U.S. Forest Service ranger that might be sauntering through the story. So, got to have the romance.
You do. People want it. They do. You get what the people want. They want that. I love that. Camille, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
I want you to have continued success with all the stuff that you're doing with your books. I mean, I think it's just, there's people who want these, and the book is called Wings Like a Dove. I want everybody to see this, get this. So tell folks where they can find the book, where they can find you if they want to continue conversing with you.
Oh, you can find pretty much anything you want to know about me or my books on my website, which is CamilleEide.com.
Yes.
And
go there, folks. And
Yeah,
it's EIDE. So
that's right.
make sure you
Yep.
that's spelled. And folks, you can follow me. We're all James Lott Jr.'s are sold at James Lott Jr. and all social media platforms. In between the pages is on every streaming service you can think of. This video version's on my YouTube channel, JLJ Media. Wherever you are, please share it, like it, subscribe, comment, rate, whatever. Pass it on to people you think should know this. If you're a fan of hers and no other fans of hers, share this interview with them. Let them know that we had a discussion about her writing process in the book. And of course, the In Between the Pages with James Lott Jr. Facebook page. You can go there and like that page also. I post all kinds of interviews with authors, writers, songwriters, playwrights. I promote my books. I promote music. I promote anything that has to do with anything written is on that page. I also do news. Nowadays, there's not a lot of news because everything's shut down, but when things get back up again, I post library news and all over the country and book signings and events. So when that stuff starts up again, you want to know that, you'll be on my page and you will see that. But everyone, please stay safe and please stay sane during this very interesting time. But we will get through it, and talk to you next time.